Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. Let's begin looking at the chronology section of the Nier Reincarnation materials book. This was a surprise inclusion with the book, but it outlines the entire Nier universe timeline and then places the Nier Reincarnation characters on there. This video is going to be the first in a series. There are 6 pages to the chronology. This will be covering the first page, which is going to be from years 856 to 1865. This first page is dominated by Nier Reincarnation characters, while the later pages are more focused on, say, the events of Replicant and Automata. And I will be more focused on the reincarnation aspects of the chronology, but I'll go over the other events briefly. One thing I'm not super confident about revealing or covering are going to be kind of new revelations for those older games. But folks in the comments can perhaps help me with that. Alright, but the year 856, a city appears on the Iberian Peninsula, which is modern-day Spain and Portugal. We'll skip ahead a little bit, we'll go to the year 997. Zero, the character that we know of as Zero from Dragon Dragoon 3, gains the flower parasite and also the power of song. The next year, 998, the sisters are born, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Zero meets Mikhail, and then Zero meets Accord, who tells her that she is a singularity. And then, in the year 1000, everyone dies. I won't go into the details about DoD 3, in case anybody wants to play that for themselves. Alright, and then we enter Nier Reincarnation territory, the year 1020. A small town near the Kingdom of Sand and Sea is raided by slavers. Resistors are murdered and the rest are sold into slavery. A noble family is confirmed to have been visiting the town at that time. So we know of the Kingdom of Sand and Sea from the stories of both Udil and Sarafa. Udil and Sarafa are the earliest in history to be included in Nier Reincarnation. We were aware of slavers, the existence of slavery, but we were not aware of a noble family kind of being mixed in and then being taken into slavery, presumably. But then that begs the question, who is of that noble family that was put into slavery? Was it Udil? Was Udil maybe a child of the noble family? Is he not merely just a street rat, but is he actual nobility? But there's also the question of the girl that Udil is friends with on the slave ship. Perhaps she was of the noble family. I don't know, it's not clear. Next entry on the chronology, year 1022. On a stormy night on a ship headed for the Kingdom of Sea and Sand, a slave boy kills his owner. Most of the escaped slaves are eventually returned to slavery and disciplined as traders. So we saw this play out in Udil's main story, I believe. But yeah, he does kill the owner of his ship and went on to live in the Kingdom of Sea and Sand. Then in the year of 1028, the Queen of the Kingdom of Sand and Sea declares, "Anyone who can make my daughter smile will receive my daughter. Many men try, none succeed." We also saw this play out in Udil and Sarafa's stories. The year 1031, the princess and a boy who tried to win her smile escape the kingdom, go out by boat into the sea, and fall into the sea, committing double suicide. The news of the happening is reported by the princess's handmaiden, which soon spreads throughout the Kingdom of Sand and Sea. This too we saw play out in Udil and Sarafa's stories, but not revealed in those stories is that the princess's handmaiden puts out the news of their double suicide. And then on these dates, they do include months, but for the most part, I don't think they matter very much. But this was in October of 1031, and then the next event is in February of 1032, so just a few months later. The princess that was reported dead returns. The next year, she marries a prince from a neighboring country. From freeing slaves to fighting poverty, the new queen shines like the sun on the shadows of her country and is remembered throughout history as the greatest and wisest ruler of her land. So this is a gigantic revelation. So the kind of the double suicide that we see in the main story, maybe that was never Sarafa on that boat in the first place. Maybe that was her handmaiden, and then Sarafa went back disguised as her own handmaiden, spread the news, and then revealed herself, and went on to become a very successful ruler. Very tricksy, very clever, and very in character. But yeah, kind of a happy ending for Sarafa in that sense. And then Udil looks like an even bigger fool for not recognizing her yet again. But yeah, I would like to make a video kind of investigating Sarafa and Udil and their relationship. I think there's some interesting stuff to be mined there. Alright, and then we'll jump ahead a bunch of years to 1335. This is placing us right in the Middle Ages, probably also in Europe. But in a town east of the Flowering Rose Castle, the corpse of a woman who had just given birth is found. The baby, however, is missing. It is rumored the dead girl greatly resembled the queen. This is referring to Fio and her dark memory story. In there, we learn of the twin sisters. The favored sister is married off to the prince, but cannot bear children, and so the more dull twin sister is kind of snuck in and then made to give birth in place, but gives birth to a girl. They were going to kill the girl, but then the sister, she runs away with the baby, which is Fio, and then collapses and hands off the baby to just a random couple that she meets before dying. And then so this corpse that was discovered is Fio's mother. And then when we first meet Fio, she's still part of the commoner class. At that time, there was the hierarchy of the nobles and the commoners. But then, in the year 1342, in order to placate the commoner class, an even lower class, the goat people, is created. Members for the new lowest class are chosen at random, but certain powerful nobles and competitive merchants are chosen purposefully. As we know, Fio and her family are chosen to be kind of dropped from the commoner class to the goat people. And then in the year 1346, 20-odd members of the goat people class revolt to protest the death of a girl of their class. The revolt is put down quickly and the members are executed. News of a black monster appearing at the site of the revolt spread. We see all of these events explained, mostly in Fio's secret stories. But no new information here, sadly, about Fio's story. In my wishlist video for the materials book, I was hoping for more depictions of the different lives of Fio and Lavanya throughout the ages, but it looks like we didn't get any, so that's too bad. Okay, we're going to skip ahead here to another pair of characters, which never meet, but are kind of linked by time and area. In the year 1477, in an island nation in the Far East, during a battle, a warrior rises from a mountain of corpses. The warrior protects their shogun until they fall again. Afterwards, the shogun raises that warrior's house to a high status. This is clearly Akiha's story. Shogun, that is a Japanese term. This is in the Far East, an island nation. So yeah, we are moving into Akiha's period. But then the next entry, 1513, we move to a different character. A future legendary adventurer is born in a mountain hut. This adventurer would find hidden islands, blaze new mountain paths, and discover plants and herbs of great medicinal properties. This adventurer would be credited with many advances for humankind. This is Argo. What's interesting here is that, when we see Argo's stories in the game, it's all sort of from his point of view or from the point of view of the people around him. But we don't really get a sense of, Argo as seen from the world, from the greater world. And we can tell from here that he actually had a positive impact for the world. Perhaps that was not his intention. Actually, we know that was not his intention. He was very laser-focused on his own drive and satisfaction. But as side effects of his adventuring, he seems to have helped the greater world. Next entry is from 1517. The Helivillite mineral is discovered by an adventurer. At first it is valued like gold, but when discovered more broadly, it loses its value. For this discovery, the adventurer gains great wealth, but ignores it in order to continue adventuring. These facts are made clear in the diaries of the adventurer discovered at a later date. This was never touched on in Argo's stories, But we do know that his family was always kind of poor because he was never very good at making money. Like, he would go adventuring and then he would gather trinkets and then bring them home to his wife to, sell or whatever, but they were never worth anything. But it turns out that he did find something very valuable, at least at first. But he gave it up because he was not interested in wealth. Next date is 1520. We will return to the Far East Kingdom. A daimyo, lord, gains control of the nation, and then an intruder infiltrates the daimyo's castle. The heir goes missing, but is not confirmed dead, so is assumed kidnapped. This is what we see play out in Akeha's main story, where she meets the heir Ranmaru, and then they run away together, both to escape their sort of set path of their lives. 6 years later, the year 1526, in a downtown of a Far East city, a criminal raises a commotion, injuring multiple people. Many of the injured were carrying weapons, and a plot is suspected. Among the injured is a young girl. I do not know what to make of this. We know, the year 1520, that Akeha and Nanmaru ran away, and then in the Dark Memory story, we do see Nanmaru more grown up. I wonder if that is 6 years later. But assuming that this is Akeha, then she would be the criminal raising a commotion in the downtown. And then we get to the last entry of this series, the year 1536. Many climbers and adventurers attempted to scale the Mountain of Death, but none succeeded until a 23-year-old achieved it. She discovered an ancient temple at the summit, but it is unknown who created the temple. This is what we see in Argo's Recollections of Dusk story. His daughter grows up to be an adventurer, conquers the mountain that Argo died on, and then more or less reconciles with him. I outlined this in my Argo the Foil character analysis video. I'll link to that below. Sadly, we do not get any more information on either Argo's daughter or Akeha. We can assume that Argo's daughter goes on to do more adventures. Akeha, we can assume, simply walks the path of hell and eventually dies for it. I have a character analysis video of Akeha as well, I'll link to that below. We'll jump ahead quite a bit here to 1775. A new empire is declared on a western continent. It rose on the back of scientific prowess. The Declaration of Independence is ratified in a continental vote 2 days later. We can probably guess that this is a reference to the United States of America. This establishment of this country may be a precursor to the country that like Leon and Demas and Gale live on, but I haven't confirmed that yet. We'll talk about that in a future video. And then we'll skip ahead to 1784 and then probably a different continent. A school for the magically gifted is established. In addition to teaching magic, the school encourages a rite of bond that strengthens the passing on of magic. This is a reference to Sadhu and Priyat's world and stories. And then we jump ahead to 1840, so like 60 years later. The corpse of a boy is discovered on the day of the rite of the bond. Traces of black magic are discovered at the murder site. There was kind of a love triangle between Sadhu, Priyat, and the boy with spiky hair. And then the reference to traces of black magic is interesting because we saw in Priyat's secret stories that black magic may have had something to do with her transformation. And then also in the year 1840 is another event. The bodies of 99 murder victims are discovered in a forest near the Magic Academy. Again, traces of black magic are found. Connections to the boy murdered on the rite of Bond Day are proposed. This is also explained in Sadhu and Priyat's stories. And then the final event from this first page of the chronology is from 1865. The long-standing School of Magic burns down in a fire caused by war. A great number of students stay on the campus to protect the books in the library. All students survive. Some students claim they heard a voice in the library. So here's a little new information. Magic School, which went for almost 100 years, it does burn down. This is long after Sadhu died, but presumably this is her voice that the other students hear in the library. Sadhu did talk about the library being her favorite place, I believe. Maybe she was haunting it, like Nearly Headless Nick in Harry Potter. Alright, but that is my translation of the first page of the chronology. We'll get to the later pages at a future date. It does take some hours to translate one of these pages, so it might be a bit before the next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.